The next item is the Innovating Street Cycle Connection Project, Ferry Road, St Asaph Street to Fitzgerald Ave. We've just asked staff to give a little bit of context to the background to this paper. Obviously the Innovating Streets project is an enabler, but there is more purpose that sits in behind that. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Kia ora, councillors, and I'm Claire Piper. I'm the project coordinator for Innovating Streets for the Christchurch City Council. Innovating Streets is a program and funding opportunity through Waka Kotahi, where we've received 90% funding for all of these projects that we've got before us today. This is the first of about 5 projects that Council is running, and the whole concept around Innovating Streets is to try and test new ways of doing things in a very lighter, quicker, cheaper way of the methodology, but also using a placemaking approach where we interact very more so in consultation and co-design with the community at the heart of all of our projects. Hopefully we have a map in front of you right now. So the context for this project sits within the wider context of our cycleways that we have in Christchurch. So we have to the left the St Asaph Street separated cycleway that's been completed, and to the right the Heathcote Express cycleway. It's a major cycle route. That's a separated cycleway as well. What we're looking at is the green part in the middle. That's our cycle connection project. So currently the cycle lane is in the road, and it's a bit of a missing connection there between the two cycleways for the city. So what we're aiming to do today is for the council to approve the resolutions that enable the safe and successful implementation of this trial that will see some changes in the road reserve area. That's about it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this? Melanie and then Yanni.
Just looking at the map, and this is quite detailed. So look, so there's a two-way cycleway along one half of it, and then it sort of splits up and then becomes a two-way cycleway on each side of the road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep. So how challenging will it be for cyclists who are going whichever way it is when they have to cross the road to get onto the other side?
It won't be difficult. So we've been down to site quite a few times in the peak hours and off-peak hours to see how the road actually functions. And because we've got those traffic lights at Fitzgerald and at Barbados Street, they're creating big gaps in the traffic flow. So most cyclists won't have to wait, and if they do have to wait, it'll only be for a few seconds before they can safely cross the road.
Okay, cool.
Yanni?
Thank you. I just had 2 questions. Under 6.8 on page 162, the accessibility considerations, it said the project team has met with include feedback in the design from accessibility group representatives.
Yes.
And it goes on to list them. Is there anything that they raised that we haven't changed in the design?
That we haven't changed? No. We did one of the proposals for the project was road art, which is painting on the active road carriageway. As a result of consultation with them and with the NZTA safety team, we've removed it. Right. So, and that's got a lot of it has to do with colour, low vision, those with disabilities and dementia that might be using this area. So we've removed it for the time being, and we've retained the shoulder road painting as part of adding amenity to the area.
Okay, great. And then I know it was mentioned in here somewhere, but I'm just struggling to find it, sorry. There is talk of a safety audit. So just to be clear, we've done a safety audit of the design, a pre-construction audit, and we'll do a post-construction audit.
Correct.
Are we able to get circulated that safety audit that we've done?
We don't usually circulate them. So the safety audit process is quite complex. Not necessarily on this one. This one's quite straightforward. Right. But we, as far as I'm aware, we've never really circulated them.
Yeah.
To
I'm just
before.
mindful, I guess, of what happened previously with this intersection, St Asaph Street, Ferry Road. Also mindful of where we've had council staff come back around some of our cycleways with urgent safety recommendations post-construction. So I just think it's, I just think it'd be really good to get some sense of what the safety concerns are,
Yes.
and then once it's done, then we can address it.
What we'd usually do is we'd usually do a scheme stage safety audit, so that's at concept level. We'll do a detailed design stage safety audit, and then we'll do a post-construction stage. Now this project's slightly different because in theory it's mostly temporary. So if there's any issues, we can just go in and change it in a couple of days. So what we've done instead is we've done a combined scheme stage and detailed design stage safety audit.
Right.
We've agreed with every single auditor recommendation on there, and we made substantial changes to our plans. And then we'll do a walkover with the auditors
Cool.
for the post-construction stage safety audit. And then if there's any issues that come up, we can change it sort of in 2 or 3 days, and we can change them under TMP.
Yeah,
And then we can come back and ask for resolutions afterwards.
that's great. So we could just get that circulated though. Basically, I can't see any reason why we couldn't get that circulated.
The post-implementation one?
Yeah, I mean, we generally don't, just because there's a context about it. And look, we're happy to action the items that get raised.
It's just so we can have, as a local elected rep, it's just so we can have an awareness of what some of the concerns are. So if we get feedback from the community, we're better informed. I mean, I support this project, and I really commend you for all the work you've done and the engagement. But I just, given some of the track record on some of these things and what we've seen, I just personally find it would be helpful to understand what the safety concerns have been raised are in a bit more detail.
Would it be helpful to get a briefing for the community board so that, I mean, if there is concern about documentation that is without context and in isolation and a technical report, it might be better to have arrange for the people that wrote it to come and give a briefing to the community board?
I mean,
That sounds excellent, because as part of that process, we've got a very intensive monitoring and evaluation program wrapped around this project and around all of our Innovating Streets projects. This seeks us having different methods of ways that the users of that area can feed back to us. So they've got my direct contact details, for example. We've got a web page, and it will go on Have Your Say as well, so we'll be seeking feedback via that way, as well as developing a new GIS online tool that can drop a pin at a location and people can comment on that.
yeah, I don't doubt what you're saying,
We'll be
but
pulling that feedback and that monitoring a week after the project has had its completion, and then a second week, and then every fortnight, and then dropping down to every month. That will occur for the duration of the entire project. So however long this project is in place, we will be having active monitoring and evaluation of the project itself. And as Bill has said, what we can do is we can, if the planters are in the wrong place because someone needs access to their driveway, we'll go out and move them straight away. And if there's any issues that have been raised, we're going to address them straight away.
yeah, but what I heard staff say is you've done a safety audit,
Yes.
and you've agreed with everything that's in it.
Yes.
And I would have thought just providing a sort of the chart with, or, just the table of here was what the safety audit recommended, here's what we've done. I can't see why we'd need a briefing on that.
Well,
I'm happy to have the briefing,
Has the
but it
community
just-
board had a briefing on the whole project, have they?
We did right at the start, and this was what was raised. And, I mean, I don't go into history, but we're still waiting to get the safety brief, the post-construction safety briefing on one of the MCRs through the Sheldon Street Cumla Terrace area. Then that's been over a year, and it came to council as urgent, and we've still had no briefing on it. So, I mean, I just can't see the harm in circulating what the safety concerns were identified and how they've been addressed, if it's possible, but happy for the board to get a briefing. I just thought it would have been a simple piece of information that we could have had circulated.
Can we take it under advisement? I mean, I'm hearing two things. I wasn't aware that this was an issue, so sometimes it can be helpful to know in advance of a meeting that people have a concern, and then I can arrange for people to come brief with a response. But look, I mean, I think we can get an update note in the meantime. This is going to be subject to an ongoing basis. This is, although it's part of a wider network approach to major cycleway routes, it is also utilising an innovative streets project funding mechanism to give it a go in a different way, which is to be commended. So thank you.
Sorry.
If I've got several,
Could I just add something about the safety audit? I think just the safety audits go through a process, and auditors raise their concerns, and then the designers review those and look at those in the context of the overall design. So it's not necessarily every item that's raised by safety auditors gets actioned, because it may not necessarily need to be. So, and there's a whole process that we work through. So that's why I guess there's a hesitancy, and
Right.
why it may be better just to do to put a bit of context around it rather than release.
so
it.
do you work together with the auditors to
Yeah.
to essentially, so they do an initial sort of kind of evaluation from their perspective, and then they work through that with the,
Yeah, so in terms of process, the auditor will make a recommendation, and then as the designer, I will respond either accepting or disagreeing or proposing an alternate solution, and then that will go back to them for them to comment on, and then it will go to our safety engineer, and then it will go to our client, who's usually the project manager. So it does go through an iterative process, I suppose, to make sure everyone's in agreement. If there is disagreement, it will go to our transport steering group as well, which is made up of people such as Stefan and Lynette to get approval for the disagreement.
right. So is there, were there any outstanding areas of concern
Not on
as
this.
a result of that process?
Not on this one, no.
No, not in this one. Okay, so I'm comfortable that we just leave it where it is, just with a brief note to councillors, just with an update of that process. All right. So I've got Sarah, Aaron, Pauline, and Mike. That's good. A good thing to do at a meeting is to acknowledge that your question has been asked and answered.
And we will be coming back to the community board with the results of that monitoring as well.
I'll be
Excellent.
giving feedback as I bike down it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Aaron.
Yeah, two quick questions. One is a follow-up from Councillor Coker's question around that crossing point in the middle. So we've got one of those on the up the top end of Colombo Street. I've used it maybe 30 times myself, never seen any incidents, but has there been any incidents there? Seems to work, but has there been any?
At that one, I don't believe so, but I'd have to double check. I know that they've had some difficulties at some other ones, but
Right.
this is a very different road. This is very quiet.
It's
road.
similar to top
It's similar
end of
to
Plymouth,
one
yeah.
on Colombo Street, but when I've used one on Colombo Street, I've noticed cyclists aren't necessarily waiting for the lights before they
Oh, no.
cross. So we've
do that.
taken that on board when we've designed this.
Yeah.
So it was the same. No, it wasn't the same designers, but it was a major cycle route team who did our audit.
Yeah.
So they're well aware of how those crossings work, and they're the ones who recommended this treatment. Originally, we were going to have cars giving way to cycles,
Right,
but they suggested we make it cycles give way because they're not going to have to for most of the time.
brilliant. Okay, well answered. And the other one is the ski ramp for mice that you brought in.
Wonderful.
What is you brought it in
Yes.
and then not said anything about it?
No.
Well,
Thanks. As some of these projects, people
Oh, the
ask,
mayor
where's
can't
the
see it."
innovation? Where's the interesting elements? So you'll see on the plans there's wonderful colours that are going to be added in, and some of you that have been around post-quake, you would have seen some of the street painting, the road painting that the urban regeneration team did in the city at that time. So that's part of the innovation is adding colour and vibrancy back into the central city through some of this paint. But along the way, we've looked at different materials and how they can be innovative. So using things in a different way, in a more creative way. What we have in front of you is a wave delineator. Its primary purpose and design is as a cycle separator. In this situation, we're using it somewhat as a cycle separator, but along the painted sections, what we didn't want is people to drive on those painted sections. So there's some planters there, but there's nothing really stopping anyone from, curving in and parking in there. So we've got these from America. We're very lucky we did the order in time, so we've got them at our fingertips, and I can say that we will be the first council in New Zealand to implement this product. Auckland Transport are trying really hard. I think their container is delayed. So that's a shame. So we will be the first. So that's the innovation, is using an existing product in a different way to add a bit more texture and creativity to the design. Also, another innovation that we're using is on the bus platform at the Ara one-way section. You'll see there's some kind of pebbly style dots on the plan. They are called LED limbo seats, and if you want to Google them, feel free. The only time they've ever been seen is at Vivid Sydney, so we will be the first in New Zealand to have those pebble LED seats. They will be lit at night. Okay. The idea here is to create an interesting Instagrammable moment around PT to encourage people that that's a really cool spot to be. And so we're looking forward to having those, and they are in New Zealand as well, so we're very blessed that we haven't had the same delays as other councils with getting materials and assets to deliver these Innovating Streets projects. Thank you.
Well spotted, Aaron. I hadn't noticed that. Pauline and Mike.
Yeah, well, actually, funnily enough, that was going to be my question too, to ask you to outline the temporary nature of this and the innovative aspects of it, which you've pretty much done. I think you've covered everything. So the other things would be, I guess the colourful paint is different. And so you've got the cycle lane in the green, and then the colourful paint. What does that do on the outside of that?
The colourful paint is basically the leftover space, for example, as we're narrowing the road carriageway as a result of needing to keep the speeds down. So you'll see that one of the key moves and the resolutions you'll be supporting today is the speed limit reduction from 50k's to 30k's.
Yeah.
So some of that relates to how the design of the street is done, and so what we've got is we've got this shoulder, so we've decided to give it a bit of vibrancy in that area using paint. It's anti-slip paint, so it's really good, and our team are really excited to get it on the road and add colour to that area.
Great, and so I think that what you're saying there is because you've got all this funky fun stuff going on here now, that people will just naturally slow down. That's great.
We hope.
It looks awesome.
And when I just add to that? So the Innovating Streets concept is that you design like a normal road design, and then you bring it back and you make it a temporary one. So those painted areas in the sort of the traditional design would actually be landscaping. So it would be either berms and trees or rain gardens and stuff like that. So that's really one of the things we're testing, is if we need that space, and if we do, or we don't need it, we need it as a separator. So in the final design, that would hopefully be planted up like Durham Street.
Or could it remain as funky painting?
It could. You just got an ongoing maintenance cost that actually you have to repaint it quite frequently.
Oh, I see.
It'd be sort of every 2 years or so you'd have to repaint. But yes, you could.
But then trees need maintenance too, so I think colourful roads are quite interesting, and I think they do have a good effect on slowing people down. So it'll be interesting to watch this project. Thank you.
Good. Mike.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions on the design. I just noticed on Ferry Road at the Barbados intersection heading west, you've got a stop box there which is in line with the left turning lane. Well, shouldn't that be an advanced one just in front of it, just to give it a bit more visibility for people in cars of cycle?
You mean move it further towards
the pedestrian crossing area?
Oh, that one. Yeah, we can move that slightly further forward.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing, the exit of William Street being a good way and going into I guess a bi-directional cycleway, which is the concern obviously with bi-directional ones. Are you happy with it being a good way instead of a stop to actually make people stop and?
Yeah, there's really good visibility there. When we can change it to a stop, but there's good visibility there.
I guess it's just the habit, I guess, of people when they're to I guess coast through a good way, just looking in the one direction, not expecting a cyclist to be coming, and that will obviously get used by quite a few people during school term, and I'm just wondering if potentially just to get people in the habit of stopping to look and check both directions.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So that's Phil Major.
Thank you, guys.
And
Just a couple of
James.
questions. It's probably in here and I haven't seen it. How much is the total cost? I know we're getting 90%, but what's the total number?
The total cost of delivering the entire project.
Roughly.
It's in the report, isn't it?
750,000.
750, okay. Now, just so I'm on the right track, all the build-outs and stuff like that, they're all temporary things and that there's no curb and channels being shifted, it's all...
There's some curb and channel at the bus stops outside Ara, because we have to have a certain height curb to allow people in wheelchairs or mobility issues to get on.
Roger that, yeah.
That is it though. The rest of it. I only had to take some of the curbs out at the intersection with St Asaph Street, because it's been built for a one-way cycleway and we need it to be bi-directional, but we're just going to knock them off and then
So it's only minor change things. And do the locals down there know that they might be going to lose about half their car parks? Are they aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, righto. And roughly, how long is it in for? As long as we like, or?
Until the permanent scheme comes through, yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
James?
Kia ora. Hey, look, I share Mike's concerns about the give way sign at Williams Street, exiting onto Ferry Road. I wasn't clear on what was going to happen about that. Oh, is it that easy? Oh, can I have one on my street? No, the next thing is, so this thingy there, is that a I missed the point, I think. Is that the separator between cars and bikes, is it? That, yeah. You know, I know we're talking about innovation and so on, but I do worry about those things because, and I'm very supportive of cycles, I've got to say, I'll put that on the table. But, you know, the bollards that are in some places around town, I think some people enjoy driving over them and wrecking them. How's that going to stand up?
We brought it here so that you can have a tactile moment with it, if you like. We have had our traffic operations and engineers have a really good play with it, including two people trying to go all the way along to see if it'll break. It hasn't. You know, we're quite active checking to see if it works. We're quite happy and satisfied that it will work. The thing about it is it's going to be donor bolted down into the road. If it doesn't work, we'll take it out.
Yeah, it's a trial.
Yeah, you haven't seen Councillor Major's latest vehicle though, but you will on social media soon. But yeah, look, the one other thing though is I notice, and I know that I see we've got some good points scoring in against Auckland about this and that and so on. But one thing I think they do well with their cycle lanes, I think they are, ways at least, is that they've got quite thick, these things are donor bolted into the ground. You'll have seen them, I guess. Those little yellow ones are not bollards, and they're really effective, like on St Luke's Road there. I see that regularly. So do we do that here?
They are quite effective and you can use them. I'd be a little bit concerned with the way children are crossing the road around the school, that it could become a bit of a tripping hazard because they are so low, and those kids just come out the gate and just sort of swarm across the road to the cars. We've got these now, so I'd suggest we use them, but if these aren't working, we can look at a solution such as that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? There appear to be none. Who would like to move this? Jake will move it, and seconded by Sarah. Is there any debate while people are having a play? Thank you. Seems like a very strong product. So I've got, it's been moved and seconded by Jake and Sarah. Debate, Sarah.
Just quickly, thank you so much for all the work on this. I know the board were really excited when we saw the original design, but gutted not to have the big, the 3D visual thing on the road, but that's the way that goes. I mean, the focus has been, I guess, in the discussion so far on the innovation and the materials being used, but actually for me the key innovation is in the process. And we've been wanting for ages to be able to trial something before we put it in, so people can experience it, see what it's really like. We can make tweaks and changes beforehand, which is the key thing. And The fact that Waka Kotahi have now made it easier for us to do this by both changing some of the guidelines and giving us funding has been really important. Ahead of now, we'd have had to pay for anything like this 100%, and it's not as cheap as you might expect with temporary staff. There's a whole pile of stuff goes into it. So that's going to make this a real game changer, I think, for this area. There's a lot of people coming up Ferry Road now and heading to St Asaph Street, and I hear a lot of comments from people saying, when's council going to do this bit? And I'm now able to say it's coming very, very soon, which is really good. So thank you so much for your work on that. I know the school kids have been really engaged and interested, and I look forward to seeing how it goes. Thanks.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, I'll start by agreeing with Sarah, pretty much 100% on this, and it's has been a bit weird being down around there and seeing that gap of the, you know, you've got one major cycleway there and then you've got St Asaph Street along there, so the two not connecting up, so I agree there. And I will raise Phil's point around the parking, and the thing here is that, again, it's temporary, so if the taking away the parking doesn't work and the businesses can come in and say, hey, look, it hasn't worked for this reason or whoever, it can be changed. It can go back. The Rainbow Roads, I think that's something that's going to stick. Going back to Pauline's point, I think they will probably be more successful than we give them credit for. I think they'll be a point of interest. They will slow people, and I think people really won't drive on them. It'll be out of respect for it appears like a piece of art. So I'm impressed by all of that. This here is kind of what I think we should have done with every single major cycleway in the city. We should do them all temporary and then see which bits work, which bits don't, and then change them around and work with our communities first to get the designs right. And that's what's happened here. The concept of the tactical urbanism, I think, is fantastic. I think it'll be proved here to be good. I don't think this will be the final design. I think there will be changes, but those changes will be, like you say, really, really quick, and if there are problems. So this kind of is like doing a cycleway with the community rather than to the community, and I think that'll have a better outcome for getting more people on bikes, and this is exactly what our board had asked for Harewood Road. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. It's carried.
And thank you very much, councillors, and we look forward. NZTA have let us know that there may be a ministerial visit as part of this project, as it's an exemplar for Waka Kotahi. So we look forward to, in due course in March, when it's final completion, to invite you to come along and join us.
Excellent, thank you.
We'll let you know when the Minister lets us know when of his availability.
This year.
This year.
Yeah, this year. Right,